You ever get that feeling you're, like really focused deep in your work,
Uh,
and suddenly you just sense someone's watching? Like a colleague hanging around, or maybe your manager glancing
oh,
over.
yeah, that little jolt.
Right, that immediate kind of unease, that urge to suddenly look really busy. It's almost instinctual.
It really is. Like that old example of a prey animal sensing danger,
Yeah.
or maybe just feeling like a teacher's watching you during an exam.
It's definitely a primal thing for a lot of us. So that feeling of being observed can make you just want to pull back, right? Be less open about what you're actually doing.
Exactly. Less forthcoming about your process, your progress, everything.
Which brings us to this really interesting idea we've been looking into, the transparency paradox.
Right.
Because our instinct, like we said, is hold back, don't show your cards.
You've been close.
But the paradox is being genuinely, thoughtfully open at work, it can actually lead to really good things, like getting more recognition, maybe even promotions or raises.
It flips the script. Instead of feeling scrutinized, it becomes beneficial.
Totally. So this deep dive, we're really getting into the heart of that. How can being open, but in the right way, actually fast track growth, both for you and, well, the whole organization?
Yeah, moving beyond that feeling of just being watched towards real collaboration.
So that's our mission today, really, to unpack how we make transparency actually work. How does it build trust? How does it bring real benefits, especially now with AI becoming such a big part of how we manage products and services?
Okay, so first off, we need to acknowledge that initial reaction. You hear transparency, and you often think,
Vulnerability, exposure.
right, putting your work, maybe even yourself, out there for criticism.
Feels risky, but this idea of true transparency, it's different, isn't it?
It is. It's not just about, sharing absolutely everything with absolutely everyone all the time.
No fire hose of information.
Exactly. True transparency is more deliberate openness. But critically, it has to be grounded in trust.
Trust.
And it's directed purposefully towards collaboration and growth,
Yeah.
especially thinking about how we manage our products and services effectively.
So less like leaving your office door wide open constantly, more like deciding when to open it and who to invite in.
Precisely. Strategically sharing the right things with the right people for the right reasons. Making specific parts of your work visible to those who can actually, contribute or learn from it.
And when you do that, when it's targeted like that in product and service management, the benefits start showing up, right?
Oh, definitely. Your colleagues, the ones you trust, they can see what you're working on, what challenges you're facing with a particular product feature, maybe, and they can offer perspectives you might have missed or share their own experiences. Hey, we tried something similar on this other service. Here's what we learned.
That saves time, avoids reinventing the wheel.
Totally. Or they might spot a risk early on. Something about the product approach that could cause problems later. It's about preventing those bigger issues down the line.
So it really becomes an invitation to collaborate,
Yeah.
to level up the product or service together, not just, here's my work, judge me.
That's the ideal, yes. But we should also talk about the valid concerns people have around transparency in managing products and services.
Right, because it's not all smooth sailing. People worry about just getting buried in information they don't need.
Information overload, yeah. Or facing criticism that isn't actually helpful, just noise.
Or maybe getting distracted by what everyone else is doing instead of focusing on their own part of the product or service.
All real possibilities.
Yeah.
Which is why effective transparency isn't just about opening the floodgates. It means setting clear boundaries.
Okay.
Making sure the information shared is relevant, it's purposeful for the people seeing it, especially within that product or service context. Otherwise, yeah, it's just distraction. It doesn't help manage the offerings better.
But when you get it right, when it's thoughtful.
Then it becomes this incredibly powerful tool for empowerment in product and service management. You're tapping into the collective intelligence of your team, your organization.
Instead of one person struggling with a product challenge in isolation.
Exactly. It becomes a shared problem to solve. That's where innovation often sparks, in those collaborative moments around our offerings.
And looking at the bigger picture for the whole organization, what are the long-term rewards of cultivating this kind of transparency around products and services?
Well, you start to see a shift towards a more collaborative environment overall, more innovative, definitely more agile in how the enterprise functions.
But it's not instant, right? You can't just declare we're transparent now.
Oh, absolutely not. It's a gradual thing. It has to be built on trust that already exists or that you're actively building. It's an evolution.
So for the leaders in an organization focused on products and services, what's the win for them?
They get much clearer, real-time insights, unfiltered views into what's actually happening with product development service delivery.
Not just the polished report that comes later.
Exactly. It cuts through the layers, gives a truer picture than, status updates that might smooth over the bumps, helps avoid surprises.
And for the teams actually doing the product and service work.
It's a huge learning opportunity. Seeing what other teams are trying, their successes, even their challenges or failures with certain approaches.
That avoids duplication of effort, right?
Massively. And it speeds up innovation across the board for all the offerings. People learn from each other much faster.
You also mentioned how it changes feedback.
Yeah, this is really interesting. In that kind of open, trusting environment, feedback about a product or service isn't taken so personally. It's seen more as, okay, this is about making our offering better collectively.
A shared goal.
Right. It becomes a collaborative opportunity for mutual success, not an attack.
And what about that organic learning piece? Not formal training, but just picking things up.
That's a big one, too. Just by having visibility into how your colleagues tackle problems in managing their products or services, you absorb techniques, you see different approaches. And because it's happening within relationships where there's hopefully trust, it feels supportive. Like learning with people, not being corrected by them.
Yeah. Okay, so this all sounds great, but let's bring in AI. How does transparency play out when we're developing or using AI in our products and services?
Yes. This is where transparency becomes maybe even more critical. It acts like a vital safety net.
A safety net? How so?
Well, think of developing an AI feature for a customer-facing service. By being transparent about how it works, what data it uses, what decisions it's making, you invite more eyes onto it.
Different perspectives.
Exactly. You might bring in ethicists, maybe colleagues from legal or compliance, or even just people from completely different parts of the business.
Yeah.
Or get early customer input.
Like non-scientists looking at a complex experiment.
Sort of. They might spot ethical concerns, potential biases, or safety issues in how the AI impacts the product or service that the core tech team, deep in the weeds, might overlook.
So it helps uncover those blind spots.
Crucially. And it's not just about risks either. That transparency around AI and product management can spark new ideas. People might see ways to apply it or improve the service that the original team hadn't thought of.
And it fights against that black box problem too, doesn't it? Where nobody really understands how the AI is working inside the product.
Absolutely vital. If the processes aren't visible, if people don't get how the AI is influencing the product or service they use or manage, it's really hard to trust it.
So transparency builds trust in the tool itself.
In the tool and in the people deploying it within their product and service workflows. That shared understanding makes people more comfortable adopting AI. It reduces the fear factor and ultimately helps build a more resilient enterprise that can leverage AI effectively in its offerings.
You also mentioned ripple effects. What does that look like?
It's fascinating to see when one team starts genuinely sharing their work, the good, the bad, the stuck points in their product development. It often gives other teams permission almost to do the same. It starts to build a culture where asking for help with your service isn't weakness.
It's normal. Expected, even.
Right. And offering support becomes more common. It just fosters this environment of continuous improvement baked into how everyone approaches managing their products and services.
So practically speaking, what does this actually look like day to day? What are teams doing?
It can be simple things. Making work visible, like using shared boards, physical or digital, showing progress on product features, showing blockers.
Okay, like Kanban or Scrum boards.
Exactly. And having regular, honest conversations, not just status updates, but talking about the real challenges faced in managing a service and celebrating the successes too.
What else?
Things like setting up communities of practice can be really powerful. Bringing together people working on similar products or services or using similar tools to share what they're learning.
And specifically for AI and products.
That could mean sharing performance dashboards openly, being transparent about the implementation details within the product architecture, even, importantly, sharing failure stories.
Sharing failures, that feels counterintuitive too.
But it's incredibly valuable for organizational learning. If one team tries an AI approach for a service enhancement and it doesn't work, sharing why it didn't work saves other teams from making the same mistake.
Right. It's all feeding into that continuous improvement goal for our offerings, not about blaming anyone.
Precisely. The goal isn't overnight perfection in every product or service. It's about that steady, ongoing journey of getting better together.
And the foundation for all of this, the thing that makes it work or fall apart.
It always comes back to trust.
Yeah.
Without that basic level of psychological safety and trust, trying to be transparent just feels like exposure. Like you said, being under a microscope.
Though with trust.
It becomes a gift, a powerful tool to connect, to collaborate, to innovate, and really grow your collective ability to deliver outstanding products and services.
So if someone listening is thinking, okay, I want more of this positive transparency on my team, especially around our products, where do they start? It sounds big.
Start small and start safe. Don't try to boil the ocean. Maybe just share one piece of work you're doing, something you feel relatively comfortable with just one trusted colleague, or maybe a small supportive group.
And actively ask for their thoughts.
Yes, invite input. Don't just show it. Ask, what do you think? See any gaps here? And then really listen to how they respond. Observe the reaction.
And the flip side is important too, right? Engaging when others share.
Absolutely crucial. If someone invites you into their process, engage constructively. Ask questions to understand. And always, always use that shared information to help and support, never to undermine or criticize destructively. Build that trust.
Okay, so that leads us nicely to some questions for you, the listener, to think about.
Yeah, reflect on your own experiences. What's your history with transparency, particularly thinking about managing products or services? Has it helped your team? Where have the challenges been?
And maybe if you haven't really leaned into transparency yet, what's holding you back? What would need to change in your work environment for you to feel safe enough to give it a try?
And thinking about those core agile ideas we often discuss in the context of product and service management, context, mindfulness, collaboration, learning, which of those might need a bit more focus, more reinforcement in your workplace?
Right. Which pillar needs strengthening to build that essential trust?
The trust that really unlocks all the benefits of transparency for how you approach your offerings.
Really good questions to mull over. And honestly, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the transparency paradox.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic.
We really hope it sparked some ideas for you about how thoughtful openness, grounded in trust, can help build more adaptive, more resilient organizations, especially in how we manage and improve our products and services using agile thinking.
We definitely encourage you to keep exploring these concepts. Think about how they might apply in your own context, your own team.
And if you do want to dig even deeper, explore the source material behind our conversation today.
Please do check out the links. They're right there in the description below. Click through and continue the learning.